Hey guys, Metal Jesus here, and I am back again with John Riggs.
How's it going, buddy?
Good. I am so glad you're here.
Me too.
Because you are probably the only collector that I know personally that collects for something called the Famicom disc system.
It's the #1 question I get at conventions is,
really?
People come up and they're like, hey, what are you looking for? And my answer is always, I'm not looking for anything in particular, but if I find some Famicom disc system games, I'll probably pick them up.
Huh. Well, this video is perfect because it's going to be a buying guide for the system, which I know very little about, but yet you do.
I love it. It's one of my favorite things to collect for currently. It's just one of those obscure things, not a lot out there for it, but super fun to have, especially if you're like an 8-bit gamer like I am.
Yeah, all right, let's take a look. All right, guys, so this is going to be a buying guide, and first you're going to talk about the hardware.
That's right.
Kind of what it is, and then also some of the gotchas maybe we need to look out for when you start collecting for it.
Sure.
Maybe some of the accessories, and then at the end you're going to have 10 games that you should pick up day one if you decide to collect for this.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so tell people what this is.
This is the Famicom disc system. You also need a Famicom to play. You don't need a Famicom. We'll talk about that here in a moment.
Right.
But this is your basic run-of-the-mill Famicom disc system. It has its own power supply. So if you're using a Famicom or something else, this also has to be charged too. If you don't have a power supply, it's all good because you can also use...
I know. It has a battery compartment here.
6 C-cell batteries.
And do you know how long those batteries last?
They last a long time.
5 months is what it's advertised.
5 months sounds about right. Because
Yeah.
it doesn't use a lot of power and energy to work. You need something to get it working though.
Which is pretty cool, actually. They did that.
And the discs are their own proprietary to Nintendo disc. It's not just like your old, floppy drives that we had here.
But again, to get to the point here, it is a disc drive for the Nintendo family computer or Famicom.
Right.
And for those that don't know what that is, it is the Japanese version, the original version of the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yeah.
This is just what they got over there.
Yep.
And I love the fact that it's called a family computer and it has a disc drive, just like you would expect it to do that.
You'd want it to.
It just needs a mouse.
Yeah, exactly. They never had a mouse peripheral for it. I mean, they had the light gun. There was even like a keyboard and an inflatable bike later on too. But yeah, some pretty fun things. But this is the family system. This is the
Family
Famicom.
computer.
There you go. To get it to work, you do that action.
There you go. That's going to help you a bit.
Oh.
You got it.
Plugs in, and then this guy plugs into the back of the Famicom.
And this is called the...
This is the RAM adapter.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, this is the RAM adapter, and this gives you the extra RAM needed to run from here.
So it controls the disk drive. It has extra RAM, all this sort of stuff.
And then you just use your basic Famicom controllers. Pretty cool.
And what is the benefit of having the floppy disk?
The benefit of it?
Yes.
Oh, that's where the games are.
Right, but also, I guess my point, I was leading you that there's way more storage on a floppy disk.
Oh, sure. Both sides as well. I mean, you're talking about 112 kilobytes, I believe?
Something like that. And I mean, even some instances, there's a game on each side.
A lot of times, yeah. Some of the smaller games, think about the early black box Nintendo games, for instance.
Right.
You might find games that are there might be tennis on one side and pro wrestling on the other side, and you get that on here. Most games have side A is start up your game, and then tells you to flip it over, and side B is your actual game and all that.
Yeah.
So.
And also too, we should mention that it gave developers the ability to save your games.
That's true.
Which was huge compared to cartridges.
Right. In fact, in Japan, their Metroid and their Kid Icarus, for instance, we had a password system. They had a save system. So they didn't have to worry about writing down passwords back in the day, Oh, man. I'm jealous.
So he's holding my disk drive here, and the bummer is it doesn't work.
Oh, man.
I know. And
I brought mine.
Yeah, well, tell people the reason why it doesn't work is because it has a belt system in there, which a lot of floppy disks, floppy drives at the time did.
Right.
And this is a big caveat if you're going to go and try to buy one of these things. Pretty much just kind of assume, this has been my experience, assume that belt will probably need to be replaced.
Probably. Easily done. It does take a little bit of time. These belts are these little flimsy material. That is an actual belt to the Famicom disc system.
I need to get one of these from you.
You can have it. I have lots. You can have a couple.
Okay.
And these belts, they last a while depending on how much you use your system, but they will go out eventually.
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not very thick, actually, so I could see them melting over time or just disintegrating, basically.
Sure, yeah, and that's what usually what happens is they just end up, and it's like an alternator belt that just snaps.
Yeah, okay. So we covered the drive itself. We're obviously going to talk about the games in a little bit.
Right.
The fact it doesn't necessarily need a power supply, which is pretty cool.
Right.
But do you have to have the Famicom?
You do not have to have the Famicom.
Okay.
In fact, I would recommend not using the Famicom because the Famicom, as you can tell, there's no AV port. There's not even like a composite or component or anything. There is RF, and you have to be on channel 1 or 2.
RF. It's like the Atari.
And we don't have a channel 1. The Japanese channel 1 and 2 to us, unless you have a Japanese television, you're talking about channel like 90 and 91. So you have to get an old CRT that can actually go up that high
I didn't know that.
to get that to work. And it's still, and Famicoms, you thought our old toaster model NESs were fickle.
Yeah.
The Famicom is, half the time you don't even worry about it. In fact, half the time if you might even see it broken, uses parts. You do not have to use that. You can use your standard. If you have a top loader Nintendo, for instance, you can use a basic converter. I have one here.
Okay.
And then it is, So then through your converter, you can do like that, and it will work. If you have a toaster model, they have these that are available. This is it actually literally says Famicom converter, and you can use that for your toaster model. Doesn't need to be ejected. Just like with the Game Genie, you don't actually have to push it down, and that is long enough. And I have used that, and it does work.
Wait, is this an official or
that is not official? Okay,
and Expo or something like that.
Yeah, you can get that at Expos.
Oh, cool.
It's a Murasame thing,
Yeah.
He built those, I think, with me in mind, and he has them available too. So if you're working with a toaster model or something like that, that'll work just fine as well.
Okay.
And there are some Famiclone systems that this will work on. I have a few clone consoles for the NES, and none of those have worked ever. But there is like an AV Famiclone that does work.
What is this?
Now that, my friend, is the Sharp Twin Famicom.
Okay.
It is a 2-in-1 model. If you think of like the Sega Genesis to the Sega CD, this would be like the CDX. So it is your Famicom on top, and there's even a port that says, are you using Famicom or disk system?
Oh.
If you're using the disk system, this thing actually won't go down. Famicom.
And now, this looks like a really cool console. Is it collectible?
I think it's collectible because it's my preferred way of playing the Famicom. You don't have to worry about all the other stuff, and it's also, you only use one power cord.
Yeah, and you don't need the RAM.
And you don't need the RAM adapter, it's all already in there.
Huge.
It's all encumbered. So if you're looking into Famicom disk system, that might be the way to go. And it has everything you need.
I want one of these. This is so cool looking.
You find them at conventions every once in a while, and usually for a decent-ish price.
Made by Sharp, though, not by... So it's licensed out from Nintendo.
It's licensed out from Nintendo, isn't that crazy? And it also has the audio-video cords.
I saw that.
So you're not worrying about, through the RF.
Yeah, wow, that's cool.
So that's my preferred way of playing.
Okay, well, cool. So obviously it's a game console. It's all about the games, and let's talk about them. All right, dude, so I was doing some research for this video. I was blown away that there's over 200 licensed games for the system.
It's quite a bit.
I know. So in front of us, you have 10 that you think that need to be in my game collection.
I do.
All right.
So I'm going to start off with something that's a little... When it comes to Famicom disk system collecting, you're going to run across this a lot because these discs are rewritable. Yeah,
that's huge, right? So that, again, floppy disks can be rewritten.
Sure.
So just because the label says it, you don't know if you're getting that, right?
Right. And they used to have the kiosks in Japan. Like think about like what we have with Redbox. They would literally take their games like, I'm done with Jackal, for instance. Rewrite it. Hey, I got a new game. Go home. And then, so you're going to get that a lot with these. It might say something and you get something completely different. One of the games I have is Castlevania. Side A is Castlevania, and then you flip it over to side B, and it's like volleyball. Like, oh, seriously? This is called, translated, it's the Miracle of Almana. It's like Almana no Kiseki or something like that. And this is one of those rewritten ones, so much so that you can see the one label is peeling off, and the new label is exposed, and it's neither of those games. And the backside is Green Beret, which is their Russian attack.
Oh, interesting. The other thing I want to mention here, though, that's really important is that you'll notice that the floppy disk, the data is exposed.
Oh yeah, it's right in daylight.
Yeah, and this is and not only that, but like fingers. I mean, this is
sure.
In the PC world, this is a huge no-no. Like our 3.5 floppy disk had that little gate on them.
Right.
And so I'm really surprised that they did that. It was probably a cost-cutting thing, but
could be.
Just be aware that they're a little bit.
It has this little papery think, right? That works, right?
Can you imagine giving it to a kid though, and just like their greasy palms,
There was later on. Here, I'll show you one of these. There was later on.
This, right?
Okay, there was later on that they did have a shield on them.
Finally,
but
yeah,
too late.
Cool.
All right, we're talking about this game, by the way.
Yes. Right.
This Miracle of Almana, it plays kind of like a Indiana Jones game. It's from Konami, has the same sound effects as like Goonies, so when you play it, you're like, this is like a Nintendo game that I've never played before. That's one of the things I love about Famicom Disk System. It's like, I've already played all the Nintendo games, most of the Famicom games, now here's a whole new batch of games for me.
Yeah, that's cool.
Action platformer, the gimmick behind it is you throw a rope that's like a grappling hook at like a 30-degree angle, kind of like Rock and Rope, that old arcade game. And that's how you get around, as you're traveling through these caverns and stuff, trying to get back your gem or your jewel, whatever the Nintendo plot is. And it's super, super awesome. And with the added sound chip for the Famicom Disk System, awesome soundtrack on this too.
Okay.
So you're talking about Famicom Disk System. You're talking about, this is Super Mario Brothers 2, but not our Super Mario Brothers 2.
Okay.
This is what we called the lost levels when Mario All-Stars came out. Huh. So if you're getting a Famicom Disk System, you're probably going to grab one of these also. And this is one of those games like you were talking about. It's big enough for one side. So you might find a game out there at a convention or something that's Mario 2 on one side, then the other side might be, Green Beret, for instance.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this then. Obviously Mario 2 is probably somewhat popular.
Oh,
so there should be a lot of copies of this. I mean,
that one's probably, I've seen more Mario 2 than any other Famicom Disk System game.
And what would be the average price that you would typically see? I mean, what's the range?
Oh man, that's like asking range about Sega Saturn.
I know.
I've seen games as cheap as a couple of bucks to as expensive as $100. You know, so depending on what the game is, and also depending on how complete it is, because sometimes it's just you might just find the game loose like this. Sometimes you find it in a case. Sometimes you find it with that. Sometimes you find it in something like this, which is the case with the manual all encaptured in everything.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Well, that's
but it's
cool.
Super Mario the Lost Levels, but it's cool to play it on the intended system.
Yeah. Huh.
So if you're looking for it.
The other thing I'm noticing here too is the system had a mascot.
Discoon. I thought it was cute. I like Discoon.
Yeah, it's cool. Okay.
I miss Discoon. Since I'm already holding this is Dababa. Is what that says right there in hiragana. And it plays a lot like the caverns of like Star Tropics, where you're like moving from tile to tile. You don't walk, you jump from tile to tile, and you defeat enemies in that kind of 3/4 overhead view. And you can pop everything out of there, that's all right. Yeah, there's what the manual looks like,
That's actually a nice little manual.
Full color, yep. Nice little booklet sized.
Oh, there's what's his name?
Oh, Discoon?
Is that Discoon?
Oh, I think that's just
the floppy disk dude.
The floppy disk, pretending he's a human or something like that.
Okay, that's cool.
So if you find one of those, I might recommend picking that one up for sure.
Okay.
I can't believe we're already 3 games into it. We haven't talked about Doki Doki Panic.
Oh, yes.
This is the one that we got as Mario 2, with some differences as well. Like you can't run, for instance, on this one. To beat this game, you have to beat it with all 4 players. You can't just go through it and choose your characters along the way.
Oh.
You have to go through the whole game. But, again, you can save your game along the way because it's the Famicom Disk System.
It must be so cool, though, going back and playing the original version as intended.
It's cool. That
is cool.
It's cool to see because it's one of those I've always heard about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is a different game in Japan? What happened? I couldn't imagine. And Mario 2 is like one of my favorite video games of all time,
Yeah.
So, to play the original. Now, this is the original. I think this label's kind of a bootleg, though. Looks a little faded up in that. Discoon's, I think, telling another story. Somebody may have written this. We'll see it. One of those must-haves for the Famicom Disk System is the mysterious Murasame's Castle. That one also plays in that kind of Zelda view, but it takes place in like feudal Japan. As you're running around and using your sword and using your weapons and whatnot, and going through palaces and saving maidens.
Now, let me ask you this, again, being a floppy disk and being somewhat susceptible to outside forces that could damage it.
Sure.
What's your success rate in actually getting these at expos and taking them home and playing them and getting them to work?
So far, very, very, very good.
Okay.
When it comes to ordering them online, it's about 50-50. I mean, sometimes they'll just literally say, hey, these don't work anymore. Do with them what you will.
Right.
And there are ways, I don't have one personally, but there are ways that you can today rewrite new games on them. Like people have built devices using a Famicom disk system, which also kind of acts as a rewriter, but it's not intended for it, that you can write ROMs onto there. So there are people out there who are taking like these text-heavy games, RPGs, translating them, and then putting them on them so they work on a disk system. That was a super fun game.
Yeah?
We got a shooter next, which is Falsion.
Are you sure about that?
I don't know. Falsion. Falsion. All right.
Okay.
Let's call it Falsion. It's a 3D game. It uses the 3D action for it. Plays kind of like the behind the view, kind of like a gyrus, but it's behind the view the entire time, and you're out in space and you're shooting stuff, and it's just one of those kind of fun shooters to play.
Yeah, it even says 3D here. That's cool.
Yeah, it's the same as before, like the Rad Racer, for instance. You hit the select button, and it goes to 3D mode. I
really do like this packaging here. I mean,
yeah.
It protects it just a little bit more. You know what I mean?
It really does. Harder to find when you see games like that. But.
Yeah, I bet. Cool.
We have a familiar one. This is one of those. I played it before on the Nintendo, but then it's even better on the Famicom disk system. This is Versus Excitebike.
Oh.
So that's right up your
alley. I love Excitebike.
I know. So this one, Versus Excitebike, you can play this 2-player battle, 2-player challenge.
Okay.
Split screen, so one player's on top, one player's on bottom, and they both scroll their own way. It does have background music, which I know isn't the biggest thing in the world, but when you're playing the game, there is actually a soundtrack. And I love the fact that after so many levels, it even does a bonus stage, where instead of it being kind of like that angled view, it's a side view, and you have to like jump over trucks and stuff like that. Like you have to go off the ramps and like, you know, how many trucks can you jump over? And
really?
You have to angle yourself higher and angle yourself farther to make some distance.
This might be the game I need to pick up. I love Excitebike.
Yeah, other than that, it plays just like all the other Excitebikes.
Okay.
But it has just those extra added elements, especially the 2-player mode, and you can save your tracks.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
They did not, I mean, that was...
Yeah.
They had the option in the Nintendo version, couldn't save it. But you can actually save your tracks on this one, and the track building mode even looks differently, and it also looks more pleasing. Like it actually has the tile work of like, hey, which one do you want to use, and it's not just scrolling through the different ramps and all that.
Okay.
So if we're talking about if this was ever going to be a hidden gems video, this would be the hidden gem. This is this is called Kick Challenger Airfoot.
Kick Challenger Airfoot.
Oh well, let me tell you about it. You play as a tomato with feet.
What is it with you and tomato games?
I love tomatoes! No, and it's funny, I don't even actually necessarily care to eat tomatoes, too. Probably because of Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom.
Right.
So you play as overhead view. You have to hold one button to maneuver your feet. So and that's where you can choose where you're going to walk. So if you're walking across a bridge,
I've heard of this game.
If you're walking across a bridge, you have to put your feet really far together. If there's enemies coming at you, your other foot will kick the enemies out of the way, and you pick up power-ups and all that. It's actually at first I was like, I gotta play a game that's called Kick Challenger Airfoot. However, when I started playing it, I was like, this is actually a really decent game.
Are you reading that?
Well, that one's in katakana, and that one's readable.
Oh, okay. Okay, because I'm looking for the English on here, and I'm not seeing it. So.
Yeah, well, and I played it before, so I did the research in advance.
I was just gonna be like really impressed.
Yeah,
like, I didn't know
no, not that fast. It usually takes me a lot longer to read katakana like that.
Oh, interesting. Well, I've seen gameplay of this before.
Okay,
and it does look really cool.
Yeah,
looks fun.
It's just a fun game that's just I haven't seen anything like it before. So
okay, cool.
We have this one, which is the Miracle Bokute Upa.
Now you're just making stuff up.
I just pulling out random syllables at this point now. It's an action platformer, a cute action platformer from Konami, where you play as a baby with a magical rattle. You attack the enemies, they blow up into balloons. You can either kick them to make it as a weapon, or you can hop on them as a platform to raise up to the higher levels. The baby has been used and recycled for a lot of different Konami games. Like if you ever played any of the Paradius games, and the baby, it comes from this game that was on the Famicom disk system.
Really?
And it's a fun action platformer, kind of like one of those. It's a Nintendo, like, where was this Nintendo game? How come we never got it in America?
Yeah.
Totally could have come out. Would have been a lot of fun.
Okay, cool.
And then finally we have a musical shmup.
Musical shmup.
This is a Otocky, maybe it's called Otocky. I'll call it Otocky, I suppose. You fly around, you have to collect your music notes along the way, and it's kind of like a music rhythm shmup where you have to grab the music notes in the beat of the music. And then when you have enough music notes, you're like the enemy of the first boss, for instance, it's a music note with holes in it, and you have to blast your music notes to patch the holes.
Oh.
Also, while avoiding enemies, shooting them down as well. Different power-ups include, you can make it so instead of it sounding like a piano, it sounds like a violin. It sounds so weird.
It does.
However,
well, I mean, look at that cover.
That's what you play as. It's unique enough and fun enough that it's just like, this, it's gotta be, if you have a Famicom Disk System, you gotta have that game too.
Wow, okay. And then over here, what are these three that you have sitting here?
Oh, my friend, these are bootlegs.
Bootlegs, okay.
Okay, this is going to be an easy test, an easy challenge for you as well. Guess which one is the bootleg?
Let's show the audience. So the funny thing about the the Famicom Disk System is that Nintendo thought they were being clever, and that not only just putting the name on the disc, which looks pretty cool actually.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
This was meant to be copy protection.
It is.
Like physical copy protection.
Right, and you can tell if you look at it that the I and the N is that's where it locks into place, and if it's not there, just like a flat disc, there's nothing to lock into place. But you can see how they got around it by just shaving it off completely.
Yeah, so that didn't really work for very long.
No, and that's when you started getting into the piracy. It's when you started getting into the non-licensed games. There's a whole lot of hentai games out there.
I've heard about
that didn't quite make it. For some reason, didn't get that Nintendo seal of quality approval. I don't know what happened there.
So but I've heard though that bootlegs is a big part of this. Like, I mean, do you collect those as well? Or is there some interesting stuff on there?
I don't collect them. If I happen to run across them, cool. I mean, I'm just down to play whatever game can fit onto a card. But I mean, there are also people who put hacks on there too. I mean, there's just like you can with Nintendo repros and all that. Yeah, you can make repros of Famicom Disk System games. But then also, in my favor and my benefit, sometimes every once in a while, somebody will say, "Hey, here's say Doki Doki Panic." One of the games that most people are looking for if they have a Famicom Disk System. You can't find it. It's harder to find. People who have it aren't selling it, but they can rip it off on some cheap $5 disc. Hey, I get a chance to play it at least.
Yeah,
that's something.
Huh. Wow, that's crazy. Now, as far as like the 200 licensed games, I mean, how are you going for a complete set? What does it look like?
I'm not going for a complete set because I can barely find any of the games in the first place.
Yeah, I bet.
Most of the games I find at conventions are people coming up to me saying, "Hey, I heard you like Famicom Disk System games. Are you interested in trading for these?" And of course, I'm like, I certainly have a look at them.
And how many games do you have at this point?
Maybe 50-ish. So I'm kind of getting there. I'm not really actively collecting for a complete set.
Yeah.
However, many of the games I have are also rewritten. Like they're not legit. Like this. Some of them are like this.
Yeah.
So long as they work, so long as they play, I'm okay with that. And there is also other ways too that you can get a drive that can play off an SD card that fits into your RAM adapter.
Oh, okay.
Which fits into this port right there. So you can also get a drive that fits into there, and that acts as your Famicom Disk System EverDrive, for instance.
Oh, really?
So if you just want to play the games, not worry about emulators, but you still want to play it on physical hardware, that is an option out there. I have one. It works. I still prefer the old-fashioned.
Yeah, there's something about those floppy disks. Of course, hey.
Just a little bit, right?
I do love the physical media. It's so cool. Wow.
But plenty of options, plenty of ways to play. I thought it was interesting, too, the NES Classic Edition, because it's hackable. I loaded up some Famicom Disk System games on there just in case, and they worked. Like, they have the BIOS on there for some reason. So if you have a hacked Nintendo Classic Edition, you can, not that I encourage that, but or not, certainly don't endorse it. But since the people are doing it anyway, Famicom Disk System games apparently work without any BIOS or anything.
Wow, that's interesting, huh?
I know. Lots of different ways to play, but this is one of those obscure systems that I kind of grew attached to, and I've kind of become that guy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks for coming on here. So, love to know down in the comments if you guys collect for the Famicom Disk System. We know it's few and far between, but there might be some of you out there.
There's a few.
That's cool. So where can people find you on the internet?
I am at John Blue Riggs on pretty much every social media platform, including Twitter and Instagram, and I host a YouTube channel where not only I show off some of these games, but also show you how you can fix your old broken video games too.
Awesome. Definitely check it out.
Always.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and take care. I want to thank John Riggs again for coming on my channel and talking all things Famicom Disk System. But that's not all that he collects. He actually is a very big fan of the PlayStation VR, and we recently did a PlayStation VR Hidden Gems video on my channel. And so if you are interested in that system, kind of similar to the Famicom disc system, don't you think? Kind of under the radar a little bit. Well, definitely check out that video. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Take care.